What's going on, everyone? I'm Phantom, and this is my beginner's guide to Predecessor's first original character, Kira, aka Huntress. Before I start, please do consider subscribing and liking this video if you want to see more character guides like this in the future. Kira the Shadow Huntress is the first character entirely made by Omega Studios, and she is a ranged AD carry focusing on single target damage. Kira is a fast-paced ADC with a pretty complex skill set, which is nice to see in contrast to some of the old Paragon characters we've had our hands on. Kira's playstyle is very high-risk, high-reward oriented, so it may take some time before you start identifying what risks to take and avoid. Just don't be discouraged if you find yourself struggling in your first couple of games. Diving right into her abilities, Kira's passive is Vengeance. Anytime Kira damages an enemy with an ability or basic attack, that enemy receives a stack of Vengeance. Kira deals an additional 2% bonus damage to the target per stack of Vengeance on the target. At max stacks, 6, the bonus damage is dealt as true damage. With this passive, it's wise to focus down one target so you can max out these stacks as fast as possible. The true damage will shred any enemy, including tanks, as the 12% true damage at max stats will completely ignore any physical or magical armor. This is even useful at level 1 as all heroes spawn with some small amount of physical and magical armor. This passive applies a visual effect on your enemy that indicates roughly how many stacks they have. The visual is a buildup of dark purplish smoke that becomes a Northern Lights-like purple energy around your target at max stats. Each stack from this passive resets the duration of the previous stacks, meaning that all stacks will fizzle out at the same time, and it is much easier to build up stacks than it otherwise would be. Kira's right mouse button is Mercy. Kira pulls out her sidearm, called Mercy, and fires a powerful physical damage shot. Much like basic attacks, this can crit, apply on hit effects, and lifesteal. It also deals additional damage to minions and monsters. If this damages an enemy hero, Mercy refunds 50% of its cooldown, which is already quite short. This is a fantastic burst damage ability to use against an enemy once they have all 6 stacks of Vengeance, because the true damage will be applied to this high, single instance source of damage. This ability can be used between your basic attacks to output a lot of damage in a short burst of time. The range on this is slightly longer than your basic attack, but it's really not that much longer. I recommend maxing out this ability first. Kira's Q is Dusk. Deal a burst of damage to all enemy targets with stacks of Vengeance. This deals additional damage for each stack of Vengeance that the enemy has, and it slows enemies for a short time. This ability is great in 1v1s as the slow makes it incredibly easy to land some basic attacks, and in the early game, the cooldown will come back online by the time your enemy is low, so you can still use it if they start to escape. It's important to know that this ability does not apply a stack of your passive, meaning that you can't just max out ability haste and spam Q until the enemies die. Unlike your right mouse button, this does not apply crits, lifesteal, or other on-hit effects. I recommend maxing out this ability second. Kira's E is Shadow Glide. This is a fantastic dash in the direction you're moving that provides bonus physical power for 6 seconds and makes herself untargetable during the dash. It's important to note that this only makes her untargetable. These are not invincibility frames, and you will still be hit by most abilities. Being untargetable just means that heroes like Countess and Chimera won't be able to select you with their teleport or jump abilities that have to lock onto you. It should also be noted that you can still be targeted by enemy towers during this dash. You will also avoid being targeted by something like a Muriel ult, so be careful if your Muriel is trying to get the ult off. It may throw her off if she tries to click right as you dash. It's a very specific timing, but it is technically possible, so just be aware that that's an interaction that exists. This dash is great for getting in and out of fights, and it can even be used during your ultimate ability to sort of bypass the movement speed reduction that you get while your ult is active. Use this dash often, but be careful not to be caught in a bad situation where you need it to get out of danger. This dash will go through heroes if you are getting body blocked. What I'm about to say will probably get patched soon, but I found it hilarious, so I'm going to mention it anyway. You can dash inside of other heroes and minions, meaning that you can actually hide inside of Orb Prime. This is totally an exploit, and I don't condone doing this, but I think it's hilarious. Kira's ultimate ability is Purge. Kira spins around, firing bullets and bolts in all directions around her, dealing physical damage to all characters within range. Each instance of damage can benefit from your crit and lifesteal. Kira cannot attack or use other abilities during this ultimate, with the exception of Shadow Glide, which can help you with positioning while ulting. Kira does suffer a 40% slow while this ultimate is activated. This ultimate applies Stacks of Vengeance incredibly rapidly, so I recommend using your Q shortly after ulting to deal a burst of damage to all enemies affected by your ultimate. It is important to note that only your dash from your E works during your ultimate. Things like your blink or a pacifier dash cannot be activated during this time. This ultimate can be interrupted, so be wary of Narbash stuns, Richter pulls, Drongo silences, and pretty much anything else that can interrupt an ultimate. Kira's abilities all work quite well together, and they can be used in just about any order and still be super effective. That being said, I do recommend trying to use right mouse button between your basic attack animations to maximize your DPS. Kira's big combo in the late game is simply just her R, Q, and then E combo, as your ultimate will build vengeance stacks on all enemies inside of it, making your Q deal lots more damage to all enemies with said stacks, following this up by focusing down one target with your right mouse button and basic attacks. Kira has incredible potential to carry your games if you play her correctly. In the early game, it's important to assess your matchup and watch for important cooldowns that you may want to dodge with your dash. It's also important to focus down one target, such as the ADC, but if the ADC is playing too safely, just take out their support instead. As mentioned previously, I think it can be beneficial to Q the enemy ADC early on in a fight to apply the slow, so you can land an easy basic attack, right mouse button, basic attack combo, and you may even get the ability to off cooldown fast enough so that you can use your Q as your opponent is low health and trying to get away. Late game is all about positioning. Position yourself in places where you can maximize your DPS while minimizing damage taken. That being said, unlike most other ADCs, you do have a dash that you can use to dodge important abilities, so you can be a little riskier in your positioning. On Kira, I recommend building things like attack speed and crit chance. A little bit of lifesteal is nice, as the ultimate ability will absolutely siphon health from enemies and gives you a nice burst of health to continue fighting with. But realistically speaking, you are very vulnerable during your ultimate, so it kind of counteracts that. So just a little bit of lifesteal, some crit chance, and some attack speed I think is going to be really good, but it's very early on, so take that with a grain of salt. Kira is a great ADC, and I think Omega Studios strongly delivered with their first original character, but let me know what you think of Kira in the comments down below. If you learned anything new in this guide, please drop a like and subscribe. It really does help a lot, and I would love to make more content for you guys. But that's going to do it for today's video. Have a lovely rest of your day, morning, evening, afternoon, and night. Bye-bye.